Hello and welcome to The Green Stream, a podcast brought to you by Sustainable Business Network Detroit, a network of partnerships between Southeast Michigan stakeholders, innovators, and changemakers. Each partner is on a mission to advance and amplify sustainable business practices, and we're here to learn from, share, and help activate a sustainable way forward for Greater Detroit. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review and join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And head over to our website, sbn-detroit.org. Now, let's listen in to our conversation with today's sustainability leaders.
Hi, I'm Terry Barclay, CEO of Inforum and chair of SBN Detroit. And I'm just so thrilled to welcome everyone to the Green Stream today. And I'm particularly excited because of who we're talking to today. Inforum has been in the business of accelerating women's careers for 6 decades now. And we're talking to someone today who's showing all of us what it means to be the boss of a really exciting growing company. So I'd like to welcome Vickie Lewis, who is the founder and CEO of VMX International. So Vickie, you've got an incredible, tell us about your background and VMX and maybe a little bit of your personal story, because there's a lot there too.
It's exciting times right now. So thank you, Terry. So nice to meet you. And what a privilege to be on SBN Detroit today to tell this story. So VMX started about 2001. So we're in our 22nd year, headquartered in the city of Detroit. We've been in Detroit the entire time. We were at the Fisher Building. The iconic Fisher Building was our headquarters location until when COVID hit, then we moved to Livernois Avenue of Fashion. So we pride ourselves in our recycling service. So we started out as a waste and recycling and transportation company, and we specialize in single source management programs. So the way that I got into this business, Terry, is so funny. Well, I started out with the railroad. So I worked as a yard master in the railroad for many years. And then I found out that one of the major automotive companies had decided to transport their waste to the West Coast. And they needed someone with rail experience to help them to do that. And I applied for the job and I got the job. And that was a segue into learning about hazardous materials. You know, when you put a train together, you have to know how to put those train cars together. So in case it's an explosion, that it doesn't cause harm to the community.
And Vickie, I just have to say, we've been hearing more about this in the news lately with some of the happenings in Ohio. But anyway,
so it's important what happened. And those are far and few between, but when it happens, it can be devastating. So I do pray for that area, and hopefully the cleanup will be expedited so that folks can try to get back to a sense of normalcy. But from that, you can tell the importance of the type of job that I had. And it led to me really learning a lot about hazardous waste and hazardous materials and how to properly handle them. And then it grew into me becoming fond of wanting to know more about the earth and how to manage this planet and different types of waste streams. And so from the railroad, I was hired for this major automotive company to kind of profile all of these waste streams and learn more about how waste is generated. So there's such a thing in our industry as going upstream and downstream. Going upstream to try to reduce the amount of waste that's generated from the very beginning, and then downstream to find alternative methods of disposal, alternative methods from the landfill. So at that time back then, Terry, oh my goodness, everything was being landfilled, or at least it seemed to be that way to us. And I have to credit the automotive industry in the position that I was in, because they were like pioneers on wanting to have programs that led to zero waste landfill initiatives, and these were award-winning programs. And I'm so proud to have been part of that from the very beginning. So we had an opportunity to go through and identify different types of materials, different types of waste that was going into the landfill, but we found alternative methods that had value. And so that became the whole theme, to find alternative methods of disposal that would bring more life back to these byproducts and these materials that otherwise would have been in the landfill.
Absolutely fascinating. So I know that you're passionate about the circular economy and,
Yes.
obviously knowledgeable, and you're building your business right here in Detroit, which makes us all so excited and proud, and have been growing rapidly, though,
Yes.
nationally and internationally. So is there anything more that you can share about how you view sustainability from
Sure.
the perspective of VMX?
Yeah, so right now is such an exciting time because when we first started out, Terry, we started with the automotive industry, and then, they went into this recession. We took some of those same single source management programs, and single source management means that we're the source that's on site that's managing everything that's not your part or that's not your commodity that you're selling. And so that is everything from non-hazardous to hazardous waste. We're finding a home and the best way of managing it. But at that time, way back then, recycling was not the primary thing that companies wanted to do, basically because it was so expensive.
Yeah.
Here in the state of Michigan, the tipping fees to landfill are so cheap, that when it comes to recycling, because many times you may want to be a good corporate citizen, but it does hit your bottom line. It does hit the bottom line when it comes to recycling. Many times it costs more because of the logistics to get materials to the end user. And so that can drive the cost up. And as you know, especially coming out of a recession or in a recession, looking at that bottom line is very important. But because of the times that we're living in now, I think that it's exciting because that's not the primary issue. Right now, we can see the damage that's being caused by the economy when it comes to carbon waste, and when it comes to what's happening with the weather and the changes that's happening. We have to come up with ways that we can reduce our carbon footprint. And so at VMX, that's one of the things we're mostly excited about. We get an opportunity now, Terry, where we can educate our clients and educate the community and tell them more about the importance of reusing and coming up with a sustainable living lifestyle so that we're not so dependent on virgin materials. That's what it's all about. If we can find alternative ways to use some of the byproducts and materials from the things that are made originally, and then find a second use, or find a way to reduce the impact of having to use virgin products all the time, that's going to reduce our carbon footprint.
So there's a question that I'm sort of dying to ask you, particularly given your long history working as a partner with the automotive industry.
Mhm.
We hear a lot about EV, electrical
Yeah.
and battery recycling, and it seems like it's two sides of the coin, right? You want to move to a greener solution from a power perspective, but what does that create long term? So could you talk a little bit about that?
It is an interesting conversation to have. So for VMX, since we are already within the automotive industry and their tier clients that they work with, um, to be working in this space is a natural next step for us. And so if we were to look at our supply chain where we fit, the next place for us would be, since we recycle and since we find alternative methods for disposal, would be to open a end-of-life lithium ion battery recycling facility. And that's our aim. That's what we're working on right now, right here in the state of Michigan. And so many people, they think about electrification and the impact, and we talk about the infrastructure, whether it is there or not. Will this really have an impact on reducing the carbon footprint? And where is this new technology going? What I've been doing for the last 13 years, Terry, is taking a look not only at that, but at end of life. What are we going to do with these materials? And when I first started looking at it, these batteries, the packs came in, these big, bulky, tight materials that look like plastic, and to figure out what's going to happen at end of life. Where's all these materials? Where will they end up? What can I do as a company to find different sources, different ways to utilize these materials? And then later down the line, not only was that important, but what about the actual cells? What about the actual materials to make these batteries? What happens with that? How are batteries made? And if you look into it and you understand this technology, you know that there's a lot of mining that takes place to get these precious metals in order to make these batteries. So what I'd like to do is to be able to contribute to that circularity by taking these end-of-life batteries, and number one, trying to find a second use for them. Because just because it is end of life for the automobile, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's end of life for that battery. So what type of second life potential do these batteries potentially have? Taking a look and having a facility that may be able to send these batteries on to the next stage for a second life, perhaps for energy storage, or to actually reuse these batteries to see whether or not they're capable of being reused, perhaps in other types of electric equipment like saws and drills and things like that, or to grind them or shred them down to black mass where these precious metals are, so that we can put that back into the economy to remake the batteries. Now, how exciting is that?
That is incredibly exciting. It's incredibly exciting. And it sounds like you're really optimistic about this probability of success.
Well, the thing is that, Terry, right now, there's not a lot of volume for these batteries. These batteries have a long life. And like I said, I've been thinking about and been working on this concept with many other companies for the last 13 years. And at that time, we thought that the batteries, their life would be perhaps maybe about 10 years. Well, they're making them pretty good. So they've been lasting for about 13 years, unless it is in a car accident or if it comes off the assembly line where it's just scrap. The end of life for these batteries and the amount of these batteries we'll probably see in the next 10 years. So this is really looking upstream to be prepared for the influx of these batteries that's coming. And the smart companies will be taking a look and trying to figure out exactly what to do. And that's our plan. We want to position ourselves to bring value, not only to the automotive community, but to our community where we live. We don't want these batteries to have the potential of catching fire. These batteries that are dangerous. We don't want them in the wrong hands. We want to make sure that we, as this new technology is coming on, that we're learning how to live within this society, this new society, how to manage these batteries, how to best put these batteries and make them safe if they are in an accident, how to store these batteries if they're collected, how to work with companies such as the auto recyclers to ensure that they are safe, and the first responders to ensure they're safe when it comes to managing these batteries.
You know, the VMX story is really a grand and incredible story. And now what are you up to? 70 employees or more? I mean, I know you're...
Our employees are all across the United States, and they work on different programs, different total waste programs. We have a lot of government work also. In some of these facilities, we are managing their recycling facilities. We're so excited that we have opportunities to work with some of the newer companies that are coming to the state of Michigan. We are asking, I am a member of Next Cycle, which is a
Yep.
division of Eagle, where I'm one of the ambassadors looking for companies to come here to help us increase our recycling from 18% to 45%. So we're trying to attract more companies that are coming here for recycling, new companies that are coming on board with their new technology and innovations when it comes to mobility and making scooters. And as you can see, the auto industry opening these great big battery plants. We have an opportunity to work with them. We have an opportunity now. We're in this space to work with them. And I know folks will say, okay, you're a woman, you're a minority in this space. There's not a lot of people that look like me in this space, but more and more as we educate people, we tell them about this space, good jobs to be had. We're hiring employees and training them so that they understand the importance of the work going forward, that this is work that's needed.
You said it so well. I couldn't have said it better. It feels like we're at a unique moment where there's just incredible opportunity in this space.
I think that the ESG programs that are being implemented, and that's the environmental, social, and governance programs that many of these major corporations are right now rolling out, it gives opportunities for minorities, for equity and diversity in different areas. It gives opportunities for companies to look at their governance programs and to see on their boards, how might we make a difference when it comes to building new facilities, the impact that it have on different environments. Now there's a focus, a different kind of focus that's out there now that's more beneficial. And the timing is perfect because times are changing. We're in this new age of how we live. And there used to be a time when people would look down and frown upon going to a secondhand store to buy a shirt or a pair of pants. But now it is promoted that that's what we want to do. We want to find a new life for an old pair of jeans. Perhaps they can be a purse or a jacket, or find someone that needs to have these clothes, not just take them to a secondhand place, but perhaps to a designer that can make something different where they don't have to buy new material to start all over again. So everything is exciting. And when I look at lifestyles, everything is changing. So it is a good time right now.
Yeah, we're seeing some really high-end clothing brands grow their recycling programs, and actually it becomes a selling point for buying something from the brand, because they have days when you can return your gently used clothes and complete, and they tell you how they repurpose them.
And they're more popular, Terry. They are, it started out with designer clothes. Like if you're going to an event and you need a designer dress to wear, you can order from here. And then when you finish, package it up and send it back. And now they have your forward wardrobe. If you're working and you want to change your wardrobe around, how cool is that? And I saw something that was on TV and they were talking about one day in the future, there'll be less and less things that we own and more things that we use and send back for someone else to use, and that we don't own it, because we all know, and we've all been there when we're getting ready to move, or if someone unfortunately has passed, we go through their things, we collect a lot of things that at end of life, many times we just end up either discarding those things, throwing them away. Not very often do we give those things as a gift to someone while we're living, or give those things when we finish with it that someone else has said, Vicki, I love that scarf. I'd like to have it so that in a couple of weeks, oh, here you go. Wear it and wear it proudly. So, and we're starting to get there. It's just really, really good. We're starting to get there. And if we start educating people to start thinking like that, the world would be so much better. On the news this morning, they talked about how the weather has changed and how hot last year in 2022, it was the hottest year, the warmest when it comes to weather that this planet has had. We have got to make some changes. Change is now, or it's not going to stop. And so the good thing is that this is global. Global warming is global. All countries all over the world, everyone is taking a second look at how we manage byproducts from the things that we make. What's the best way to manage that at the end of their life? So that instead of it being cradle to grave, perhaps it's cradle to cradle. There's a whole new circular system for this material to now go into.
So, you are an incredibly savvy business person, and you've just been demonstrating your open, creative thinking process. I'm wondering if there are best practices that you employ as you cultivate new sustainable business models at VMX.
And thanks, Terry. We can all start very small into some of the new businesses and small businesses that's out there, and businesses like mine. Start small. Implement your own recycling programs within your office. We don't drink out of paper cups, and we don't drink out of water bottles. And when you start, and then have a written policy for it, that you'll bring your own coffee cup in. Start in those areas. Start with sustainable office practices. Make sure that you have, even if you're a small business, written procedures so that you don't have to start all over again. When someone leaves, you have your book of rules. Start reducing the amount of paper that you use. Make everything electronic. Go paperless in your office. And when people come into the office, let them know that that's what you do. We're a paperless office here. So make sure to start implementing those type of things. And the one thing that I do is continuous education for the entire staff when it comes to sustainability, and ways that we may be able to reduce our energy, change your light switches in your offices if you're in an office where you can. All of those kind of things, they make a difference. And then when you do that at work, then work spills over to the home. And when folks go home, they start practicing those same systems. And that's what those kind of little changes is going to make all the difference in the world.
Boy, that's so true. I think that oftentimes we become overwhelmed by the scope of what needs to happen to make a difference, that it sort of stops us in our track. We get paralyzed. It's like we're hesitant to begin with those small steps because we know that just that small step in and of itself isn't enough.
Right.
But you're making the case of it actually snowballs.
It is enough, right? It does snowball, and don't think it doesn't make a difference, because even the children in school, when they learn about recycling, they come home and they say, "Oh, Ma, you're not supposed to, don't put that in there. That's a different type of plastic. That's not, you have to rinse this out." Make sure, and isn't that wonderful that the children are learning now, because companies like ours, we're going into the schools and we're educating them on the importance of recycling, reusing, and repurposing. And so they get a chance to take that home. And so it does seem like it's a big task. Sometimes it's confusing because there's so many different types of plastic. And if you really took a look at that recycle wheel, there's so many different ways to recycle. And so we're busy, everybody's busy, but if you start with just what you know, what makes sense to you, then you can start adding on, and then it becomes clearer. Anything you do in 90 days becomes a habit. So just get started, even if you start a little at a time.
So that is such great advice. So in the sustainability space,
yes,
what do you see as some of the greatest challenges that VMX will be facing in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so one of the largest challenges would be for us with our clients is one thing to go in and institute zero waste programs and ways that they can have sustainability programs and make their companies more sustainable in the future. But nothing really works unless it's measured, right? You have to be able to measure the results of the work that you're doing. It's complicated to measure whether or not you indeed had an impact on reducing carbon footprint and how those calculations come about. And so that's one of the areas that's a challenge for us, but we're working on that. Life cycle analysis for most and all of products that's out there, especially on the electrification side, figuring that out and helping to present a life cycle analysis to our customers so that they clearly understand what it is that they're doing. And then there's the infrastructure of things. You know, you can have a wonderful compost program, but if your city or your town doesn't have the infrastructure for that, like we're bringing in all of this compost, but how do they manage it where it's not a smell and a rodent problem, and that they're able to turn this into fertilizer quickly and maybe have it available for residents? All of those things, those are challenges, but we're aware of them and we're working out those challenges, but they are there.
So throughout this conversation, it feels to me like you take these big challenges or big problems are actually a source of inspiration for you or motivation for you. Are there any specific sort of best practices in sustainability that have been your fuel, that have been a source of inspiration and perspective for you as you tackle your business?
Yeah, so I think that one of the reasons I'm optimistic is because I believe that anyone in this space should actively participate in their industry, the associations that's out there where like minds come together to figure out solutions. And if you're in an association that's solutions driven, like some of the ones that I'm in, I think that then you are optimistic because you can hear what's happening with water, what's happening on sustainable packaging, what's happening with air, what's happening in all of these different areas, and best prepare and be on committees and panels to help come up with results. That's number one, to stay connected to like-minded people who really are working to make change happen, who are really working on solutions. So for the folks that are in positions to make the decisions for their major companies and that they're taking them back, companies who have a focus from upstairs looking down where they've already made the decision that this is what we're going to do. Let's find some solutions. Let's put that on paper and let's make change happen. I think that that's the number one best practice. Secondly is having to have your team engaged. We have superstars over here. Developing a culture that is the same, a culture of experts that thrive to learn more and want to learn more about how they can do better in their jobs. And then the last one is to be passionate about saving the planet, be passionate about making an impact and making a difference, and being able to say that I made a difference and know that you did through the company and through the work that you're doing.
One of the things that I know that we have in common, just the two of us, but also that we have in common SBN Detroit, and
Yeah.
you and your
Uh-huh.
company are a real passion for the future of the city of Detroit.
Yes.
You know, what do you view as the role of sustainability in the future of the city of Detroit?
So I'm a Detroiter, and people used to say, you just open up a book and you will see my picture. You look up Detroit, there's Vicki. I think for the future of Detroit, doing more recycling with the small businesses, the mom and pops, to help them cut the cost. Recycling costs money. And so I just think that if there was a way for us to have funding for small businesses to recycle, and to make it where they will, it doesn't hurt their bottom line. They want to, it's a friendly way of recycling. We pay to dispose of our waste. So if we can have a free way of recycling, I think that the amount of waste would reduce and the recycling would increase. And so I think that that's important. I think that in the urban areas of the city of Detroit, education is important when it comes to recycling. I think that on the urban side of recycling, I think that there's a lot of things that we do that because we just don't understand. And I think that that has to do with how we manage cooking oils, the way that we manage food waste. We don't get a chance because we are in areas where there's not a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables. And so there's a lot of other types of waste that's generated. And we want to be able to contribute to composting and have more fresh vegetables in the city so that when we are eating and cooking with these materials, that we know how to best compost those and to get rid of those. And I think that with our beauty salons and our hair salons, I think that when it comes to those areas, there's some special recycling that we should pay attention to. So I'd like to see those things happen in the city of Detroit, hire more people in the city of Detroit that's focused on recycling, the importance of recycling, increase the number of days that the recycle truck comes around the neighborhoods to pick up the recycling container. For the residents, I think that the recycling container should be free because that's how we're going to save the planet. And so I think that every recycling container that the residents have should be free. Yes.
So, Vicki, what have we missed? What in this conversation? What are the things that you want to be sure that our listeners have top of mind as they go through the rest of their day?
One of the things that I want folks to recognize that it is an exciting time. Things are changing as your children are going off to college. Mention the environmental field. It's a growing field. It's always been there. Sustainability. It's a degree program now. Talk to them about that. I think that we need to talk more about electrification. It is here, whether it's hydrocell cars, whether it is the lithium ion battery cars. Mobility is changing. The way that we are living now, things are going to be changing even more. Ride share programs there's going to be more of that. Walking to work, riding a bike, all of those things are things that will make a difference if we just implement some of these changes. I think that when it comes to electrification, thinking about those that can, getting your homes prepared for the future. I think it's going to be value to your home. It's going to be value to you, even if you're not ready to get a vehicle. I think they're learning more about electrification, what's happening with the highways and the roads. Because we're already working on the roads, we may as well do a little something else so that as we drive along the road, perhaps it'll charge our cars. You know, is that way far in the future? Maybe, but maybe not. You know, get involved. I think that having a voice right now on how you'd like to see electrification in your communities. If you don't see charging stations, you know, call your city hall, get active, let them know that this is something you want people to be able to visit your town, visit your city. If they have an electric car, you want them to be able to charge it up, just like you do any fueling station. So I just think that it's just time now to be realistic about what's happening all around us, and to go out here and start helping to make change happen. I think that that's the most important thing.
Well, wow, Vicki, I can't wait to see what VMX does next, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And you're, as a leader and a role model and a source of perspective and inspiration for us all. And I just really want to thank you for your time today, and thank you so much for your leadership, powerful leadership.
Thank you.
In this field. We are so much better for you being in this role. So thank you.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you to SBN Detroit. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll have to have you back next
Please
time.
do.
I
can't wait for you to see our recycle facility. As soon as we open up, please invite me back so I can tell you all about it.
Okay, well, that's a date. We'll make that happen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
All right. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Sustainable Business Network Detroit, the Green Stream podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to follow us on sbn-detroit.org and stay tuned for more conversations on sustainability from inside and around the city.